Hey, good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful day out there. Unfortunately, we have what is becoming a concerning signal here in the tropics for potential development that could bring United States impacts within the next 10 days or so. And we're going to break all that down for you in today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And I'd love for you to go ahead and subscribe. It's a great way to stay up to date. And while you're down there hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon next to it as well. That'll notify you when I upload these videos. You'll be the first to know, and you'll be the first to get the latest model guidance and insight on those models for that forecast. And that's especially useful during this time of year as the tropics continue to show signs of life. Now, also, while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button. Consider sharing the video with somebody you think might find it interesting, and you can leave a comment. Let me know where you're watching from, or if you just got some nice encouraging words, you can do that too. Or if you have some not so encouraging words, you can go ahead and leave that too if you want. I won't stop you. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right into that forecast. To be completely honest with you, this is like the fifth time I've had to start this video over due to multiple different distractions. So let's go ahead and hope this is the one, and let's go ahead and get into things. So starting with satellite imagery over the United States, a couple key pieces I want to point out here. Obviously, this is what was PTC-8. What a lot of people thought was going to become Helene never quite got there, and you can see why this morning very easily on satellite. Here's the low pressure, and you can just clearly see these fronts that are kind of along this system. It has some tropical characteristics, but it's really just more of not necessarily a mid-latitude cyclone, but more in that realm of storm systems compared to a tropical system. And you folks in the Carolinas specifically, kind of the central and western Carolinas, felt that yesterday. It was a cold, chilly rain. This was not a very tropical feeling air mass by any means as the center moved over. So again, kind of one of those strange hybrid systems, but brought plenty of impacts. We had huge flooding in southeastern North Carolina yesterday from Carolina Beach and kind of that surrounding area. Some folks got more than a foot of rain out of this, and I told you a lot of rain was going to happen. We even had some tornadoes, which I talked about, and again, just kind of normal tropical storm, conditions that you would get just without the name. Now, outside of that, we do have a storm system spinning out west over the Rockies here. Again, this is going to lead to some severe weather today, tomorrow, and probably even Thursday as well. And we've also been talking about that for a week or so now. I told you stormy pattern was going to return, and sure enough, there it is out west. Now, current radar imagery, again, it's definitely a lot more of an active map than it has been over the past couple of days. Starting with the southeast, obviously a big area of some showers here through the Carolinas, even eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Virginia seeing some rain this morning. Luckily, most of the flooding threat has died down compared to yesterday, but we still could see some flooding, especially here, I think, in northeastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia, where we have a little bit more of training of some of that rain. But again, just a showery day for many of us here into the Carolinas, eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Virginias. Now, outside of there, again, showers and some storms picking up out west through the Four Corners and through much of the Rockies as that low pressure continues to deepen, continues to strengthen, and pull out some of that Pacific moisture here, which is leading to some of these showers and storms. Also, we've got a little bit of some rain working through portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, and Iowa today, again, as a little bit of low pressure is working through that region. So definitely a pretty active map compared to what we've seen the last little bit. We take a look at watches, warnings, advisories. We'll start in the east here. Plenty of flood watches, again, in that area I told you, from northeastern North Carolina there through southeastern Virginia, including the Richmond area, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Elizabeth City, Greenville, North Carolina, out through the Albemarle Sound area of North Carolina there too. So could see some flooding out of that. Still dealing with leftover flooding from yesterday here into portions of southeastern North Carolina. Again, got a lot of rain, and that's going to take a while to kind of recede here. So that is going to be something we need to watch out for. Other than that, we do have a bit of a flood threat here through portions of, northeastern Florida. Sorry about that. These are actually coastal flood warnings. So again, we're still seeing some onshore flow from this system. Could lead to a little bit of coastal flooding into those regions. Outside of there, through the east, things are relatively quiet. We do have some dense fog advisories here through portions of Mississippi, Memphis, and then up into the Ozarks. Again, that should wear off by this afternoon. Out west, we do have some high wind warnings here in these kind of orangish, brownish color, whatever you want to call that. Again, that low pressure that's working on through is going to help to really pick up some of those wind speeds and get it quite gusty this afternoon through some of those regions, especially into the higher elevations. All right, I'm going to go ahead and break down the next day or two for you through this part of the country. We'll start in the east, and then we'll go to the west, and then we'll talk about the tropics, which again is the reason I'm sure many of you are here for, so don't go anywhere. Let's go ahead and move this ahead, though. This afternoon, again, it's going to be showery through the Carolinas, Virginias, and eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, like I mentioned earlier. That main flooding threat, though, again, in that region that has the flood watch up through eastern North Carolina and eastern Virginia. Outside of there, though, again, shower possible for anybody, and we'll need to watch that. Also, I think a higher end area for rainfall will be right here along the Virginia and North Carolina border, where we could see, some higher end rainfall totals today, as we could get some heavier rounds of precipitation. Overnight tonight, that continues. We get more of that rain to kind of just fall and even up into the northern mid-Atlantic there through portions of maybe Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And look at this tomorrow afternoon. This tries to get another area of low pressure forming here off the coast of the Northeast and could sling a little bit of moisture back into the Northeast through New Jersey, Long Island. Could see a little bit of rain tomorrow. Don't completely rule it out. And then potentially even coastal Rhode Island up through Cape Cod there through Massachusetts Wednesday evening into Thursday. As this turns into a little bit of a coastal low here, could definitely bring in some of those rainfall totals. But really anybody in the mid-Atlantic or Northeast has a shot at some rain over the next couple of days, we'll say. Now, I will go ahead and bring up the rainfall total because I did not prepare that ahead of time, so sorry about that. But how much rain is going to fall here? Well, again, some higher end totals here through the Virginia and North Carolina border where we could get a good, 2 to 4 inches of rain in some of these regions. It see some training. Outside of that, up to an inch in those places, that rain is going to be a little bit more scattered. And then again, some of that rain up the East Coast as well is something that we will watch for. All right, severe weather really quickly, or I say really quickly, it's not going to be super quick, but something we do need to talk about. We do have a marginal risk of severe weather this afternoon, including also a slight risk and an enhanced risk of severe weather through much of the west here. That little orange dot you see on the map there through Colorado and Nebraska, that is for strong straight line winds. Again, a level 3 out of 5 for wind damage. So it's going to be something we need to watch today. We're going to see some strong storms. Again, this low pressure is moving through, bringing enough lift and some wind shear to make these storms kind of, go a little bit stronger than maybe they would have without it. So going to be a story today. Tomorrow we'll do it again, although a much skinnier and kind of smaller threat for tomorrow, but still a threat nonetheless, really from the Dakotas all the way back down to the Texas Panhandle, a thin area of some stronger showers and storms could try to get going. And then for our Thursday, we'll do it again with another slight risk up for the Twin Cities, up through much of central Minnesota, even back down through Iowa and northern Missouri. So I need to watch out for that. Again, a couple days of severe weather. I told you this was going to come, and well, here it is. Let's go ahead and time it out for you a little bit. Taking a look at the latest NAM model for this afternoon, you'll notice showers and storms really begin to get going this afternoon and evening. And look at this time frame. This is about the time, or this is really the afternoon for the West Coast. Again, the time of the tops in Eastern. Unfortunately, I can't change it. But again, just subtract 3 or 4 hours, whether you're in Mountain Time or West Coast time. But again, right into this region, look at some of these showers and storms getting going. Could become strong to severe, and in fact likely will become strong to severe with strong straight line winds, some large hail, and an isolated tornado is not out of the question, especially up here into the northern section of that threat zone. So again, that swings on through this afternoon. Behind it, we've got mountain snow through Yellowstone. We've got valley rain through Idaho, Montana, and then rain even working back through the West Coast as well. And then we're getting into tomorrow morning, this low pressure continuing to spin away very heavy rainfall for much of the state of Montana tomorrow. Again, very heavy mountain snow potentially. This could really rack up. We could get more than a foot of snow through some of these higher terrains of Wyoming. Would not be surprised to see that tomorrow afternoon as this precipitation continues. And then we get through the evening hours, and again, I know it's super tiny and super hard to see, but you see just this thin little area of some showers and storms trying to get going here through that kind of shaded area or circled area, whatever you want to call that. Again, strong straight line winds would be the main threat with that for our Thursday afternoon. And then we get this overnight Thursday, that low pressure finally pulls on up out of here. And by Thursday afternoon, again, I know it's super hard to see and super tiny, but you see some more convection on the south side of this getting going. in that slight risk that we looked at. So again, a stormy couple of days out west for sure, something that we're going to want to monitor, and we'll keep you up to date on. And just taking a look at kind of those severe weather ingredients a little bit more in depth here. We'll go this, let's actually back this up to this afternoon and evening. Again, you'll notice some of these severe weather ingredients kind of along that low pressure here, kicking up a little bit. So again, today could see some severe weather. We get this into our Wednesday afternoon and evening and overnight again. You'll notice another area of some stronger storms here getting going back out towards the Dakotas. Need to watch for some of those ingredients. And then we'll do it again on Thursday afternoon back towards Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin there. All right, let's shift gears to the tropics. And this is, I'm pretty sure, the reason a lot of you are watching today. And it's something that we need to definitely keep an eye on. Now, I'll go ahead and preface this by saying nothing is set in stone. In fact, we've seen time and time again this year that signals have been out there that haven't developed. But I'll mention kind of the region that this one is developing from generally has a higher hit percentage, I feel like, at least in personal experience. A lot of times when we see these signals that say something's going to form in the Caribbean or Gulf and then work up, it normally happens. Now, out in the main development region, it can be different. If it says something's going to form, oftentimes it doesn't. But again, this one, I think it might have legs. I will quickly mention Tropical Depression Gordon spinning out here. It could re-strengthen into a tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane. Good news, this guy's turning out to sea and will not be a problem for anybody. So briefly wanted to mention that. But also, nothing else technically on the 7-day map right now. However, that could change in the coming days. Again, this storm system likely not to develop until about 5 to 7 days from now, maybe even longer than that. So that's why we don't have anything quite from the NHC yet, but I do suspect that that will change over this week. Now, satellite imagery of the kind of region that this storm system is likely to originate from, we'll take a look out here, and you'll notice down into the Caribbean, we kind of have this general Central American gyre that's getting going. And, this is pretty common for this time of year, just a big area down here of scattered showers and storms and just convection in general. And the general thinking right now is some of this may try to consolidate a little bit here over the next week and pull north a little bit towards the northern Caribbean and potentially into the Gulf of Mexico. Don't rule out maybe even the Southwest Atlantic either. But just in general, it's going to move north over that time frame. So we'll take a look at some models here, and I'll just go ahead and tell you now it's going to be interesting here. So again, we're going to go ahead and do some prefaces here at the beginning. These are just some models I'm going to show you. This is not my forecast. This is not anybody's forecast. These are just tools that we use to create a forecast. And a big part of meteorology is not just reading a model and knowing what it's saying, but reading a model and knowing where it's wrong likely. So that's a big difference between meteorology and modelology. I think you see a lot of modelology out there where, it's just posting model runs and then that's the automatic forecast. Forecasting weather has a lot more components than just looking at a model and printing it and putting it on the screen and saying, well, that's the forecast. So we'll go ahead and take a look. This is the latest GFS model from this morning, the American model. Again, this is getting into this weekend. This is this coming Sunday. So, about 5 days from now or so, and you're looking at the map and you're saying, well, what are you talking about, Gerald? Where is this thing? Well, this is it beginning to form. Again, that kind of gyre down there beginning to break off a little bit, consolidate some, and sure enough, by the time we get into early next week, that happens. So this is next Monday evening. We've got a big kind of broad wave trying to become a tropical storm here near Cuba, and eventually it does so and develops. And from that point on, to be completely honest with you, the model's off to the races. Once it consolidates this low, again, about a week from today is when this, gets consolidated. It's off to the races. It hits Cuba, 7 to 10 days from now as a tropical storm or hurricane. And then after that, in the 10-day range, this is 10 days out, we've got a big-time hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. And generally speaking, this doesn't show the upper-level patterns, but if I go ahead and show you the upper-level 200 millibar wind, and you're wondering, well, why did it go from, nothing to crazy really quick? Well, this is why. We're looking at wind shear. There is nothing out here in the 10-day range, at least nothing of significance to kind of slow this thing down. We know the waters are off the chart. I'll take a look at humidity here in a second as well. But again, look at this. I mean, this is about as good of an environment as you can ask for a tropical system to try to develop a week from right now. Even getting into less than a week now. Again, you've got these upper level winds that are flowing out from the center of this low pressure, upper level high pressure. That's going to fan the system out. That's going to really help to allow that convection of fire, the storm to really get going at the surface. And it's beautiful conditions for the storm. I mean, I don't really know what else to tell you. So that's one component. We take a look at relative humidity. Now, this is something that maybe could help us a little bit with a system like this, but at the start, I mean, look at all this green in the Caribbean. It is moist, it is juiced up, and it is ready for something to tap into it, and that's exactly what happens here. And then even then, getting up into the Gulf, at that point, you notice more dry air, kind of works towards the system. But that's, again, about 10 days from now, so we can't look too much into the ingredients there. But just know, again, the overall kind of look here is a area of low pressure moving into a favorable environment. And the GFS, unfortunately, is not the only model showing this. I'll show you the European. Same general time frame here, about a week from right now. We'll move this to, and we get an area of low pressure, again, weak at this point, but beginning to form and beginning to get its act together, and eventually does so, again, about 10 days from now. We've got a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's pretty consistent between the two models. Both have a storm, obviously different intensities, but you would expect that at 10 days away. But they both have the signal for a storm in the same part of the world, and a part of the world that we know it's dangerous to put a storm in. So that's why things are a little concerning here. And I'll even show you a couple more models. The Canadian model, same story. In fact, gets this going even sooner. This is this weekend. We've got a storm forming in the Caribbean. By Sunday afternoon, we've got a tropical storm there near the Yucatan Peninsula. Moves northward towards Cuba, cuts the gap into the Gulf of Mexico, and a week from right now, again, we'll say Tuesday afternoon, a week from right now, we've got a hurricane or tropical storm forming, or already formed, I should say, and working into the Gulf of Mexico 10 days from now. I'm not going to go all the way to 10 days because it gets a little crazy, but we've got, again, a big time storm here in the Gulf of Mexico, in basically within a couple 100-mile radius of what the other two models just showed you. And this has been something that's been picked up for a while. I'll show you the Euro AI is the last model here, and it's been showing this for a while now. And it continues to it continues to show this. Here we go, tropical storm developing, crosses the Yucatan Peninsula, and then 10 days from now, we've got a tropical system in the Gulf of Mexico. So all of these four major models show a tropical system, whether that's a hurricane or storm, in the Gulf of Mexico in the 7 to 10 day range. Give or take a day or two. So it's obviously a concerning look, and it's one that, we're going to want to watch. The good news right now, I would say, let me go ahead and bump this up to 10 days out for you folks. The good news, I will say, if anything, is the ensembles. There is a signal for sure in the ensembles. It's just a little cattywampus right now, which, again, unfortunately, you would expect at this time frame. You wouldn't expect a perfectly clear signal 10 days out. And unfortunately, we could trend to that. We'll see. Again, nothing set in stone, but it's something that climatologically I think has legs as well. But the latest GFS ensembles, you'll notice, form a system. And again, I mentioned most of those models brought this into the Gulf. I also mentioned the Southwest Atlantic. Here's why. Again, steering currents of 10 days, you never really know. But also look at some of these members of the GFS and its ensembles. They pull this back out towards the Bahamas. So nobody can really let their guard down right now, and nobody can also panic right now, okay? I need everyone to just kind of stay in a watching mode right now, and that's all that we really need to do. It's nothing to get worried about per se. I know I've been using the word concerning, and it is. It's not something you want to see here, in this time of the year where we've seen big storms before, but we're still in a watching mode. I don't want you to panic or, start freaking out by any means. Just want you to kind of keep an eye on it, maybe even both eyes on it, just to play it safe. So that's a GFS. Taking a look at the European and its ensemble members. Again, even less excited, but still a kind of cattywampus signal here for something to form in the Caribbean and work up into the Gulf or the Southwest Atlantic. So that's the latest we've got. And this would be Helene, by the way, I should mention, unless something else before it takes a name way out in the Atlantic that probably wouldn't impact anybody, or something else homegrown kind of pops up that we don't see happening right now. But again, this would be Helene, and could be a big time a storm to watch. All right, final thing I'll talk about here, just, general look at the country over the next couple of days, over the next week or so, kind of past where we left off. So we talked about that severe weather Wednesday. After that, again, still watching this pesky low pressure off the coast. This could really bring a bit of a rainy period into coastal New England and the Northeast, an area that I've had plenty of viewers tell me needs some rain. So this could definitely be good for you folks. We're going to watch that. I think it stays just generally wet-ish, wet adjacent, if you will, here through the Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, and Northeast. When I say Southeast, I really mean Georgia, northward up through the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So we'll say the East Coast probably is a better way to phrase that. Again, could remain kind of rainy just due to the slow pressure hanging around and some lower heights aloft. Other than that, watching for more areas of storms here. This is getting into later this weekend. You'll notice another big time storm here gets going out into the plains. And look at that, big time mountain snow back out into Colorado. The mountains outside of Denver could pick up some good snow out of this, and this isn't that far away. 5 to 7 days. So not anything that is too crazy to consider happening. And that could try to cross the country and bring some storms and stormy weather to the east. And we'll have to watch that. And then the big story, obviously, 10 days from now, here's that storm in the Gulf. What does that do? Does it even exist? And all sorts of questions. So it's a bit of a muddy forecast, honestly, over the next 10 days or so. But I do think we will have a couple storm systems that try to cross the country. We'll have some more showery weather out east. And then obviously the tropics are going to be the bigger story. Temperatures, again, it's cold out west, it's chilly in the southeast, and it's warm everywhere else, and that's going to be a theme that just continues this week. You'll notice those blue colors hanging around out west, they're hanging around the eastern seaboard where we're seeing some of that rain, and then red just about everywhere else where we're going to continue to deal with above average temperatures, and really that stays that way for a while. Now, should we get a storm system later this week and into the weekend, I can definitely cool things down into the plains or wherever the center of that storm is, and whatever kind of dynamic cooling we get from that. But we'll just have to kind of wait and see. But overall, most of us above average here east of the Rockies in the temperature department. Alrighty, folks. Well, that's all I've got for you here on this Tuesday. Again, tropics are the big kind of storyline over the next week or two, and I'll continue to keep you up to date. Again, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely do so. Like the video and comment. Let me know where you're watching from. With that said, though, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all tomorrow.